We are diving into the Big 12, handing out some report cards. Guys, last week you got to the SEC and the ACC. Today, we planned for the Big 12 and the Big 10, but as I got more into this breakdown, I thought, you know what? There's so much here. I think we just have to focus on the Big 12. So Professor Mason made the call. We've just got one conference today, and a
Change the
grading
syllabus.
I've got a grading curve that I want to see if you guys agree with. So as we get ready to hand out some of these grades here, we've got those who excelled, those who passed, and then those who ultimately failed. Starting at the top with the overachievers. This is Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia. Now, you may look at that and go, Mitch, only two of those teams got A's. The other two in Kansas and Oklahoma State, if you're on the podcasting side, you've got graded as B's. First of all, I'd say raise your hand. Class is in session. Secondly, we are grading on a Big 12 curve here. And Kansas and Oklahoma State, to me, when you look at the recruiting, when you look at the defense for Oklahoma State, it was abysmal. You got an F, one of the worst defenses in the country. And yet you still made it to the Big 12 championship game, right? And so there has to be some grace. There's some extra credit here. Oklahoma State stayed late after the season to play in one more game. They beat Texas A&M, who was the walking mash unit, right? So just because you didn't end with a 90.1, we're generous, right? We're going to dole out some of that extra credit. Now, guys, without a doubt, the best team coming into this next full season as a Big 12 member, despite Jed Fish leaving, might be the Arizona Wildcats. I would love to get into that with you.
I don't disagree with that, and it's one of the reasons why I was kind of surprised. I know the financial stuff is just an absolute mess. There's been more that came out about that this week at Arizona, and I don't blame Jed Fish for wanting to, distance himself from that stuff. But he had the team to compete for a playoff spot out of the Big 12 next year. He had the team to compete for a Big 12 title. They got the big news that Jaden Delaire was coming back, not going to Texas State as he originally announced. That's a big blow for the Bobcats. But, coming back to Arizona, it seems like is huge for them. They had the team and they showed it on the field this year. Just a really hard-nosed football team, and they're keeping most of it together, it seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Fafita and
it's
McMillan coming back is absolutely massive, right? Folks thought they might walk out the door, go right up the coast to Washington.
yeah,
But Garrett, you keep your X factors on the offense.
yeah, it's a great roster. My concern is, what does it look like post Jed Fish, right? The financials are so bad. You drove a coach out, which, there might have been some interviews he had also taken. I know he was kind of looking around a little bit, but that makes me wonder, like, what does he know? What did he kind of know before all this came out? Like, is there stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to quite yet? I'm curious to see how all that works out. For me personally, I look at this and I say they might be your best team in the Big 12 next year, almost by default. With so much movement happening in college football and all of the realignment, that's also gone with a lot of guys leaving the conference. And so a couple other teams on this list, look at Kansas. You're losing your star quarterback. He hit the portal recently, and I don't know if he's going to come back or if he's whatever, but you could be looking at this as an option for several of these teams. You could be looking up and down and saying, well, I don't know what to expect out of this next team anyways. So for me, when I'm looking at Arizona, I'm saying, well, at least Arizona has some stud players, some continuity on that offensive side. They've certainly played a great game against Oklahoma, who, just did pretty well in that conference this year. So you're thinking, okay, well, just year-to-year comparisons, Arizona should be good. And so I'm looking at Arizona, I'm saying, yeah, you got a bunch going for you. You just really got to keep it up post Jed Fish. And if you can keep it up, I think you can start to run the conference a little bit. And if you show that you have that direct path to the playoff and you've got some talent on the roster, people will be attracted to that. You can, kind of crush it in the portal if you prove you have a path to the playoff, even up to one of those top 4 seeds.
I totally agree. I think there's a power vacuum at the top of the Big 12 that Arizona could step in if the athletic department really kind of stays in place around them, right? They've built up something that's worth fighting for. Now they just simply have to have enough money to keep the lights on. But I really do like the Wildcats' chances. Just one clarifying note: Jalen Daniels at Kansas returned. So Kansas has their quarterback
Is he
Kansas
coming
State.
back?
Yes, yeah. Jalen Daniels is coming back. Kansas
I,
State.
I
lost
thought that I
Nick
had seen
Burton.
that he hit the portal. He might have came back out, or that might have been a quick in and out type of thing.
No, yeah, he's definitely back. He'll play
Okay.
one more year, then go to the
Well, that's
draft.
good.
He announced in the season, I think, that he was going to come back.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Kansas, we'll see what Kansas can do under Lance Leipold. It seems like they dodged a couple bullets, keeping Leipold there on campus as well. One last topic here before we jump to the passing grades. We got to give a round of applause to West Virginia.
Yes, we do.
And a heartfelt apology for doubting you 2 years in a row. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, Mountaineers fans, the score is 1-1, right? We were heckled for our reservations, shall we say, with Neil Brown and company in year 1 of the podcast. We were right. We were heckled for year 2 and our reservations and saying Neil Brown would be fired. And obviously West Virginia far exceeded expectations. So we apologize for that. Year
Let the
3,
West
though.
Virginia fan that had confidence in Neil Brown cast the first stone. I'm not even going to like backtrack on that. We were right to question them this year, but he pulled it, somewhere out of it. Let the West Virginia fan that didn't want to fire Neil Brown coming into this year cast the first stone.
That's very fair. Very fair.
Gracious him. How about that?